Yes. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Spirit Rescue Talk. I'm your host, Amy Major, and you know my co-host, Jordan Start. Jordan, you weren't here in the States with us, but we just recently had the 4th of July. But you guys had, what, Canada Day?
We do have Canada Day on the 1st. So we're a few days ahead of you guys.
What is Canada Day? I just, I kind of looked up a little bit. Give me a little bit of a brief on this. What's Canada Day?
Putting me on the spot. It's essentially just a celebration of our nation stepping away from British colonial empire and becoming our own country, officially on paper.
So it's kind of like the same thing for the 4th of July with Independence Day, but with Canada Day, and all in the same week. Little mistake for that. So, yay! So everyone knows that Jordan's in Canada now. So they're going to go searching for her now up in Canada. So, and we did have a really great 4th of July. It did rain where I was, so we didn't really get to go out too much. We were going to have a barbecue, but can't do that when it's pouring out. And then the last few days, we've been getting the Canadian wildfire smoke coming down. And so I'm sure a lot of people have been affected by that. And the amount of people talking about like the sky is falling or the world is ending, because you go outside and you're looking at the sky and it's like orange and yellow. And you're like, okay, it looks like tornado weather.
But it looked like we were in a doomsday movie the past few days up here. Like everything's orange.
Everything. And so you go out taking pictures everywhere. And of course, I work where people are, always in chaos. So it's like people like, is the world ending? I'm like, unfortunately, no, we're still here. Everything is fine. So it's been a very interesting last few days for sure. I'm sure it's probably picked up a little bit of paranormal activity as well, just because of all the emotional projections. And of course, everyone thinking that it's eerie, like the eerie feeling of seeing the sky. So I don't know, it would have been great for filming, like some type of mystery movie or paranormal film or something. It would have been the greatest backdrop, I think, personally. I should have done something.
Then you get all the gunk in your lungs and all. Ugh. It smelled awful.
I've had people say that. I didn't get to get.
It was awful. You could taste it. It was bad.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, no, it wasn't great.
So tonight we actually have an amazing guest. Speaking of the paranormal, we have Tim Shaw that has been gracious enough to come on the show. Tim and I connected really well when we were both on a panel discussion through Ghost Education 101. He just really wowed me when we were both discussing things with spiritualism and metaphysics and, being a psychic out there in the world today. And I just really wanted to invite him on the show. He is a psychic medium, paranormal investigator. He is an author of many books. And he is a host of his own show, The Black Cat Lounge, which I'm really excited for him to talk about a little bit tonight. But I'd like Tim to just kind of say a little hello and let us know kind of like a little bit of a background on him. It's like, what made you get to where you are today. So, hi Tim, how you
Hi
doing?
guys, how are you? Thank you for inviting me on tonight. This is fun.
It's always fun when we're talking paranormal, ghosty stuff.
Well, yeah, of course. I mean, come on now. You know, it's so funny because I'm working on a book, and it's all these little stories that don't fit in any other book. So I'm
Right.
so I'm calling it Stories I Tell My Friends. So one of the big stories in there was, of course, when I was growing up, back in 19, I think it was 1975 or so, or maybe a little bit earlier. We were going through the satanic panic and all that stuff. And what was neat is they had a show called Kolchak, the Night Stalker. He was it was Garrett Darren McGavin, who was a reporter, and wherever he went, he discovered all these like vampires and all these ghosts and zombies and that sort of stuff. I loved it. And at that time, I always said, I want to be this guy. Well, little did I know, I ended up being him. I am now Kolchak, the Night Stalker. So it's crazy how things all work out. But yeah, I love this. Is in the beginning. I mean, I started Lyceum, spiritualist, like Sunday school Lyceum, and right around 1972, which is definitely probably when your parents. And I was probably about 9, and that's right. And all of my basic basic training. Right? I was brought up Roman Catholic during the school year. During Sunday, we stood up the old and I know that from taking a good look at me that you wouldn't think that I was a hellion when I was a kid. And so they enrolled us, my cousins and friends down there enrolled us in Spiritualist Sunday school. So I think to give our parents and everybody a little bit of a break. But yeah, that's where I first started. And that was it just stuck in my family, my father's family. I'm trying to think. We traced spiritualism back to I think 1880. So it was like right around the golden age of the ascension of
Right.
the spiritualist religion.
Yeah.
So,
Was that through Lilydale, the Lyceum?
yeah, yes. Back then there was a lot of spiritualist churches, but my relatives actually lived in Lilydale for many years, and so we went down there, and that's where I spent so many summers. So many summers down there every weekend, and going down to visit, and so it was great. It was really education. It's funny because I try to go and try to tell my students about how I got my education, which was like hanging around with the old blue hairs. Man, they were like crazy back then. They were like insane. They were but they were good. And I said we learned, we had to have book work and like catechism and that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But we learned actually by doing. You'd have like half a more because the Lyceum was like I forget how many hours. So it was like we would do like book work and who is the prophet of spiritual? What is the law of iron? Tell me four natural laws. Stuff like that you had to learn, and then you would take a lunch break, and then you'd go back and do active work. And back then, the active work you were kind of we were the whole way you hit it right on the head, Amy. You went and you said about being of service, and that's primarily what they drill into you. And we would do things that try to get you to not be like so shocked when stuff happens. Like they would have children's seances, which was great. I'd go into a Polish. I'm an Irish French Heinz 57 Scottish kid, and I was enrolled in a Polish parochial school, so that was like a culture shock. But down there, it was great because of the fact that they would have like these children's seances, and the only difference is they were more they were more like Victorian orientated, but yet they weren't strictly Victorian. But you would do it in the light. Back then they had these Victorian seance dedicated rooms that had black crepe on the walls and on the, across all the windows. And they would, the one that we were in mostly, it was in a private home. There was they call them Dutch doors on a closet. It's, upper door and a lower door. And then they use that actually as a spirit cabinet to go and centralize your energy and stuff. So a lot of it was cool. And a lot of it was so that if something happened, you didn't go like running off into the, into the night. Like, you tried not to have your run dude run moments, so it was really great. But they chose you to do different things. Like some people were chosen really to do like one-on-one readings, or they were kind of chosen to do, to work more with healing and that sort of stuff. I had a big mouth, and back at the time, my voice was much darker, much lower, clearer, and I could project further. So back then they didn't have churches that had there was no amps back then. So you had to go, and most of these churches were old Masonic halls that they rented. So it was up to you to be able to go, whether you were chairing or you were doing message work or doing some kind of service. You had to go and make sure that your voice would, like, hit the back wall and then come back at you. You get that little echo come back at you. So yeah, it was a lot of fun. It really was a lot of fun. I did that for, I don't know, probably I was like 14 or 15 years old before I, stopped actually doing it. And then we were doing rescue circles.
Wait, you were 14 or 15 when you stopped? When did you start?
9. Like 9, 10 years old, somewhere right there. That's I couldn't tell you when I did my first reading. I mean, I did, that to me it was no big deal. I mean, I remember going to, like in Lilydale, going to the Forest Temple or the Inspiration Stump, and at that age, I mean, having people giving me, gallery messages and that sort of thing, and then we would be practicing that, doing that type of thing, within our later on classrooms. Now it's a little different. I mean, now I believe it devolves more about the spiritualist history, but back then they really were pushing for more and more kids to become leaders and people who would be active in churches.
Right. I'm officially jealous. I don't know.
I was just thinking that there's a few of the people I know where, they have kids, and some of their kids are very, intuitive, very gifted, and they're actually talking, but they're like, I wish there was something around here that I could bring my kid to where, the abnormal becomes normalized to a degree.
Right.
Even though it's not really that abnormal. It's actually our natural state. It is normal to be. I've
actually served the platform in a couple spiritualist churches that they actually have children's lyceum, where they will go, because most of them now it's a whole different animal now. But back then it was they were just like regular congregations. So they did have children's services, and a lot of times during the anniversary of the Fox family, that first contact, they would have like little tableaus and stuff that they would do, and it was slowly, they always brought you, and they always have the kids do a little bit of, of a mini. I used to call them mini meditations, because the kids were younger. The kids were like, probably went 8, 9 when I started, and you don't want to freak kids out, but I mean, they have a ball with it, especially when like I was with the National Spiritual Association of Churches. That's the way, and they're pretty strict. The only tools that you can use are like during seance, the trumpet or the, slates, things, the bell, things of that nature.
Right.
And I remember, we would do that, but then we would have times where, we couldn't, Ouija boards were big back then still. And you couldn't use a Ouija board, but you could go and use a shot glass or a wine glass, put your finger on top of it on a polished table and let it go yes or no, that sort of stuff. So, I mean, it was just a lot of fun. And I never forgot it. And it's funny because some people ask me about the differences between Catholicism, the way that I was brought up, and spiritualism, and why I went with the spiritualist connotations was, first off, if I'm a firm believer, if Catholicism was taught properly, with the mysteries, I probably would never have been interested in spiritualism, because there is so much to it. Instead of just doing I call it just like the global thing where it just kind of go over the top of it. It's like the cliff notes of religions and some of these catechisms where they really went into it. Because I attended a great lecture by a former Jesuit theologian, and he had married one of the past presidents of the National Spiritualist Association of Churches, and they both spoke about the similarities between the two.
Mm-hmm.
Outside of the divinity of Christ and the fact that some of the names of what happens are a little different, there really isn't a whole lot that's different. So, I mean, if to me, and I've met quite a few other priests, and I've worked with a couple exorcists over the years, and we've had this conversation, and they all said this exact same thing. What do you call this? Well, why are you? Because I'm not an angel or demon guy. I mean, that's not just the way I was brought up. And he, like my friend is, and Father Jim says to me, well, what do you call this? And I'll say, well, it's that. He goes, well, that's what we call it. He goes, it's all the same. It's just energy, and it's all. So, I mean, it really makes a big difference. So, but I had a ball. I had a ball. I was active even in spirit rescue circles, probably to, I don't know, my teenage years, because it's all sex, drug, and rock and roll during, till about from 16 to like 20, and I grew up during disco. So I blame a lot of how I think on disco, I survived it. I don't know how, but I survived it. And then I came back to it. I got married in 1982, and I think I came back to it like 81, but I won't say that I totally left it, because I used to take my wife on picnics to Lilydale and stuff like that. So
Can't really ever leave it, not for sure. But I'm part of the NSAC now.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been going for about 24 years now to the Spiritualist churches. I could say it's very different than it used to be.
Yeah, Joanne now is president. She was pastor of one of the churches I used to belong to here locally. And they've come a long, dear God, have they come a long way? Luckily, because the Morris Pratt, the courses in continuing spiritualist education. When I first took that was like the most outdated thing I've ever taken in my life, because there was so much going on in the 70s and 80s. I mean, there was just so much. All this new information, all this stuff that was coming out, and again, during the Satanic Panic, I mean, that just shook a lot of people up, and you started getting more of the parapsychologists and testing and that sort of stuff going on. And that's, touching back to the psychical societies of the Victorian age, you started getting more and more PR about it, and you started seeing more of it. And then, I mean, let's face it, I cut my teeth on reading Edgar Cayce and the work of Hans Holzer. By the way, I have one of his typewriters in one of my shelves across in my collection, just so because I was a big fan of his, and I've met his daughter, and these were the influences. So, needless to say, yours truly. I just shake my head sometimes and think to myself, what the heck did I get myself into?
All the good stuff. That's what
it is. And before we go on, the one thing that I always stress to people, I just turned 69 on July 4th, as a matter of fact, it's my birthday. And I just turned 69, and I always tell people, you know what? You can't lose that childlike wonderment. You got to always be wondering what's going on over the next hill, or be interested in so many different things and so many different facets of what we do. And I think that's what keeps you young. The body says no, but the rest of me says yes.
I was just discussing that the other day. Yes. The body doesn't age. The mind is like, oh, yeah, I'm 30. And the body says, no, not anymore. Well, maybe for Jordan, but not for me. But it's just, yeah, I totally get that. That's why I wanted to bring up the 4th of July. I'm like, why am I bringing up the 4th of July?
See?
Happy birthday.
This stuff works once in a while. Thank you.
But I know we were also talking a little bit about the Ouija board as well. And Jordan said she had a few. How many did you say that you had in your house?
I've got 3.
3. And Tim, how many do you have?
I got 85 or 86.
What the heck? Really?
Well, okay. Let me put a disclaimer on this now. Let me put a disclaimer on. I have 21 classic, which means they're the old ones. From the earliest one is in 1913, and it goes. Most of my favorites are in the 40s, some in the 50s, but mostly the 1940s, and the rest are all more modern. Well, what happens is anybody. I was interviewed by a local newscaster, and he called me the orphanage of Ouija boards, because whenever people have a Ouija board that they want to get rid of, they just send it to me. I have one here. It's a Parker Brothers. It's just a run of the mill, nothing really special. Probably about $60 Ouija board, and I got it. It was sitting on the front porch one day, and I opened up the box, and I'm looking for and I'm looking at the board. I go, oh, this is a great little board. It's got the box and everything. I get excited about that stuff. And I'm going, there's no letter, nothing in there. Well, when I opened it up, I see on one of the flaps, it says, this board has caused bad dreams, illness, and a possible death. And it's got the woman's first name and her telephone number on it.
No.
So this is how I get my boards. But I don't sit on them. What I try to do now is when I go to the big conferences, I'll take 1 or 2 of them and I'll have them autographed. Last year at the Mansfield Reformatory, I took one and I had everybody sign it, and we raised like $770 for their towards their roofing fund during an auction. So what I like to do with them is I like to have a couple of them signed, and then when people have some kind of a raffle, a lot, you can put something like that in there, and it does raise money. Local pagans up here always have a couple really great causes. I love supporting. It's a thing called Cookies for Cans, and at Christmas time, this one Western New York collective here will go, and everybody bakes just a mountain of cookies. So people will bring in canned goods at some of their events, and then they get cookies, for this donation. So last year, I had done one, and we raffled it off, and my friend Frank, the 2 of us went and we raised I think about $850 that we went out and we bought canned goods for that event. And this year they still have that going, but my other friends that are dancers for Bewitched Buffalo, they go and they're raising money for, I believe, Gowns for Angels, which is an organization that takes old wedding gowns, old commuting gowns, and they make these beautiful gowns for stillborn children. So it's like a wonderful, but these are wonderful little things that, you kind of got to balance what we do by giving back as much as we can, because you're looking at a kid, they hear that. I just had a medical test, an invasive medical test today, and all clear. And I've been clear for about 10 years. So, so I mean, you got to look for the blessings on that.
Absolutely. We're happy to hear that you're all clear, for sure.
Not as happy as I am, but
No,
That's fair. That's fair. We'll give you that.
yeah, Jordan's had a lot of experience with the Ouija boards and doing some of the dark stuff. So I'm sure Jordan has a few.
Had some good, had some bad. Not all bad.
You know what? I'll tell you the truth. I teach a class on it. And I teach if you're afraid of it, number one, you don't do it unless there's a mentor with you. But number two, you get something that's kind of getting nasty. And if you don't know how to kind of deal with it, then you got to go and set it down. Too many people push the envelope too much, and that's where you get in trouble.
Right.
So with me, it's nothing for me to go, okay, done. Thank you. Goodbye. Collect, we're done. We're done here. But then you get these things, you gotta know what kind of spirits that you're working with. You get these parasiticals, and you get mimics, and you get these all these crazy things that are of the lower, like a lower vibration. And a lot of times they'll come through as the nicest person. I call them the Eddie. If this is before your times, ladies, the Eddie Haskells of spirits, because they're going, oh, gee, Amy, you look awful nice today, and then it's going, let's go kill somebody, something like that, where it's
the vibe.
Mm-hmm. And basically that's what happened in a couple cases in the early 2000s, where it kind of suckers, kids into it. And then these kids went and stabbed this other guy, luckily he didn't die. But I mean, these are things that you have to watch out for, because back in the day, I mean, I tell people this constantly. If your Uncle Joe comes through on the Ouija board that just died and says, take all your money out, which it happened during the Depression area in the 40s and 50s, take all your money out and put it in the stock, and then you lose everything. Well, let's think about Uncle Joe. Well, Uncle Joe was never a bright guy, and he never really worked and lived over a liquor store someplace. You know what I mean? Don't take financial advice from him, But
you don't even know Uncle Joe. You don't know.
Yeah, but but that's the whole thing. You don't know, and you got to question it, and I mean, it's a process. It's like seance, the same thing. Stuff coming through, especially if you're doing contact work. Ask the same question 3 times, 3 different ways. I knew the late Raymond Buckland, and the guy that brought a lot of the Wiccan religion here to the U.S. I love that guy, and I miss him. And he always taught us, ask the same question 3 different ways. If you get it 3 different ways, if you get the correct answer, there's a good chance that who you're contacting is who it is. But if it starts getting a little foggy, a little hazy, it's not giving you the right answers, cut it right off, because you don't know what you're contacting. So I mean, a lot of it's common sense, and you have to use it. The problem is that it's still marketed as a game, and people are like, oh, this is fun, and it's like, well,
coming pink.
They do come in pink now.
Listen, I have one of those slumber party Ouija boards that came in a pink, like a pink purse, a big pink purse. Everything was pink, and it came with cards. And on these cards, what you would do is during your slumber party, you would pick these cards out and you would read the question and get the answer on the Ouija board. That I think that was I think it only lasted a couple of years, but I got one down here someplace.
The pink lover in me loves this, but the spiritual protector in me is like, no.
I love Five Below. It's great. I'll go and I go. I'm not going to lie. During the fall, I go out there and I usually buy five, whatever the newest board is. I usually buy 5. But the reason I do it is because it's great. Because when I do a class, they're great to play around with, to work with, to teach, and I don't have to schlep my big boards, the bigger boards out. But they're great to use. But if somebody, like I got a student that doesn't have one, at home and is really interested in it, here, you can take this home. It's no big deal. But yeah, I have friends that go out there and buy cases of them at one shot. I know somebody that went out and bought 2 cases of them. And the best story I have for you about Ouija board. So I go to Five Below. I'm talking to one of the people there, and I said, I'm looking for the Ouija boards. And he looks at me. I said, yeah, I'm looking for we'll go over by the games. I said, okay, I found them. So I got, I think there was 5 or 6 on the shelf, so I grabbed them all. And he's up at the front register, and he's going to me, he goes, do you use these? I said, yeah. And he looks at me in all seriousness. He goes, I'm going to cash you out. I'm going to say goodbye now and thank you. But when we're done, I'm leaving. It was so cute because he was not happy. He was not happy that I was standing there with 5 or 6 boards and going, oh, I'm going to use all these.
Well, so many people are aware of the Ouija board for sure, but one device that, as you know, spiritualists are really, really fond of, and I'm really fond of, is table tipping. which you do the same thing. So tell us a little bit about your experience doing some table tipping. I've been doing it for about 20 years, and I love it. Jordan's done it a few times. Are you a fan of it?
You know what, with table tipping, a lot of it you have to kind of watch because it can be ideomotor response. It could be an ideomotor response, and I'm a proponent of the chakras in the fingertips and in the palm. And a Canadian medium once taught. I took a great class. I wish I could remember his name. It's so many years ago. He's probably dead, like most of the people I took classes from. But a lot of it was the production of ectoplasm from your hands and from your fingertips. So a lot of times that could happen, But my whole thing is where does the answers come from? I'm just not, when I work it's fun. One of the very first things I teach, in physical phenomena is that, so that it's a proof. It's a it kind of builds up your confidence when you're working with it. And then I try to push it towards spirit communication, like the wrappings and stuff. And that to me is great. But I got to tell you, we were up at, this was last year. I was up at, I usually, this year I can't because I'm officiating Satori and Satori Hawes and Cody's DeBane's wedding in up in Massachusetts in October. But normally I'm up at the Phelps General Store, part of the Palmyra History Museum complex, and I do gallery reading there, and to raise money for them. And we always have a seance afterwards. So we're up in this beautiful place, the Phelps Hotel, or the Phelps General Store, closed in the late 1930s, early 1940s. They still have original eggs in there they just closed the door and everything is there. So 80% of this building, 3 floors, is all original. It's great. And so we're sitting at the dining room table, big long oak dining room table, this beautiful old table. It's got a tablecloth on it, and I always bring toys, because you guys know the difference, between an open seance and a closed seance. And an open seance is sort of when everybody just gets together, and a closed seance is when everybody gets together on regular intervals and in order to sync up your energy and that sort of stuff. So I've got a bunch of people there that, a couple people have been at seances. Most of them didn't. And we put our hands on the table, and there's tablecloth on there. It was great. Just lightly put them on there. All of a sudden I hear this high-pitched buzzing. I'm going, what's the buzzing coming from? Well, you always have a medium that either starts it, and then you have somebody that's called the battery, which everybody kind of concentrates their energy towards that person. Well, the guy that was the battery, his hearing aid drained. It drained. It was buzzing. It was great. So he goes, and I just went and I just before I got here, I went and I charged these things up, right? So they're draining, but it was great because we're there, had our hands on there, and it went 1, 2, 3, 4. I mean, my arms were doing this. I was like, holy cow. I looked at everybody, go, well, that's I said that was worth the price of admission right there, because we won't be able to get anything else more than that. But table tipping is a lot of fun. You guys know about the Philip experiments, right? Up in Toronto, Canada, 1970s.
No, I've heard of that. No.
Oh my God, the Owens, I believe his last name was Owens. They wanted to go and they wanted to give a personality to a thought form. So they would go and they met for a year and they did all this meditation stuff and nothing happened. Nothing happened. So they said, let's go back old school and see what happens. So they said, let's try table tipping. So they got a card table and a bunch of them. None of them were mediums at all. And Owens was with the Psychical Society. And they created this whole bio. I'm trying to, the Philip was supposed to be some kind of a French prince, and used like a gypsy girl, and then ended up going and marrying somebody else, and this whole thing. So it's got this, the dates, and they made this bio up. So they started working with it, and the table started slowly, of course, at the beginning, but as time went on, and it's what I would consider a closed seance because it's the same people. it started rapping out. You get bangs through the table, like somebody underneath hitting it, or the table leg would be like rapping out. If you do the alphabet rapping system, A, B, C, and the thing would, pop and make a noise. You would go and write that down, and then that would make that would be a, sentence or whatever. Well, it got to the point, and if you go on YouTube, if you look up Philip Experiment or Conjuring Philip, they have a book about him, but they do have some. They had some video of it. You'll see the table dance on one leg and that sort of thing. It's cool. It's pretty cool. So, I mean, I've always wanted to do it, and then one of my mentors actually, I was serving the platform at one of the local churches, spiritualist churches up here, and they had a woman come in from one of the camps in Freeport, the spiritualist camps in Freeport, and we did it in the church basement. Just blew my mind. It just absolutely, they would be spinning so much that like people get thrown off the table, thrown into the wall. It happens. It's great. Or the table would go and pin them against the wall. Amazing. Just amazing. So when we were doing our Morris Pratt Institute stuff, my question was, how do we know, in the mythology of the spiritualist religion, a peddler was murdered in the cottage where the Fox family eventually started to live. And they said that he was part of, buried in the basement, this whole thing. And then they started getting rappings and that sort of stuff. And the rappings were the first inkling of modern spiritualism, modern two-way communication with the spirit world. And so I was always like, well, this is this guy's name. How do we know it's his name? And it's Charles something Rosna, whatever they teach you. Well, we all looked at each other because we weren't supposed to be doing this stuff in the church by ourselves, of course. We were supposed to be studying, having a study group. So we said, let's try it. And we were working with the table, and the table was, popping around. And we asked, is that the right name? Was that his name? So it's ABC, and then pop, and ABC, and going to H. And we got the first name correct. The middle initial was different. And instead of Rosna, it was Rosma with an M instead of an N. So we kept that and go, well, it could be, somebody on the other side can't spell the name or whatever, trying to make an excuse. About 2 weeks later, one of the girls came in with the book called American Spiritualism by Emma Harding Britton. And in there, that was the exact spelling. Right. It was the spelling that we got. And that was, we had never, known that, I mean, we had never been, privy to that. We never really expanded outward in the spiritualist religion.
Right there that, the spirit at least knew the real name.
Yeah. So it's neat. Yeah. So it's neat that this stuff comes. And again, I mean, it was great to be able to see that, to get the validation of what we got.
Right.
So it could have been, could it be an old way of spelling? Could be. After I did I just did an article, I think that came out in Erie. It's coming out in Erie Expeditions magazine about the Fox family cottage and what happened to it and the history, the pedigree of it, because I've been out there a few times. And it's kind of neat when you start realizing that things are so different. There's always it's like researching anything historic from the 1800s. You have the truth, and then you have what was left over and put in the newspapers and that sort of stuff. So it was very, very interesting. But to have that actually happen, that is kind of made me more of a believer. And I do that now for a lot of times. I'll do that if I'm doing a class for mediums, but I'll do it for like a fundraiser. We'll do that, for different locations, and it's. I think it's probably one of it's people get more out of that than standing there and looking at like little lights, blinking off and on. As a matter of fact, we were just up at the Hinsdale house. My friend Dustin Perry and my friend Heather Taddy, they invited me to come up. They were having an event, and I'm about an hour and a half away. So I went up there, and one of the people up there has been there when, has been when I did the table tipping. So we attempted it, and we got the vibrations going, and we got things it didn't move per se. It kind of like slid just a little bit, but but you could feel the vibrations coming up to the table. But they had one of those track wires, where they have the lights, the EMF and motive, and they had it on the stairs going up. And when we started getting the energy really pumping, the track wires on the stairs were like going back and forth. So that was very cool to have. So in one way it didn't work the way we wanted, but then we did get some kind of reaction, and that's what you're looking for.
Right. Connection is connection. And Jordan and I were at the Hinsdale house 2 years ago, and we just actually did an anniversary episode on Spirit Rescue Talk. And Jordan, we had some interesting scenarios there. And I know David, your boyfriend at the time, had a very interesting experience. You want to discuss any of that? Well, not necessarily,
Yeah, I mean, we opened up to talk to Spirit, and Spirit came in. You have a lot of group of mediums all together, all who do rescue work, all who can connect to earthbounds, all in a space at once. So it brought in folks from the area, folks from the home, folks from all over. And we had one spirit that was a little bit he wasn't bad, he wasn't evil or any mean shape. He was just, he was a little feisty. He just wasn't pleasant. We'll say he wasn't pleasant. And he was causing a little bit of a ruckus with us. So we sent him away. Well, I guess he decided that my partner at the time, who was not a medium, who was still very much a skeptic, he was very tired. He decided to go to bed by himself. And while he's sleeping, all of a sudden he's getting all these intrusive nightmares. He's having like this face he's seeing come into. And
they always look for the weakest link. That's what it is.
He said that they went after him because he wasn't really trained. He wasn't a medium.
Exactly.
And so it upset Jordan, because Jordan's like, I cannot believe it went after David when we're all here. We were all downstairs playing the Ouija board. At the same time, it was upstairs trying to attack David.
Were you using the Ouija board that was there?
Yeah.
I left that. That was one of mine.
I left it. We used it. And the very next day was actually my birthday, so we celebrated my birthday there. And the energy was really high, but that night, not so great for David.
I've been going there. They were going to. The only reason I went up there originally was right around 2011, and they were going to bulldoze the place. And I've known about it because I remember reading about it in the local newspapers. That was a big thing back then. I mean, again, you had the satanic panic and all that stuff. So it was like a topical thing. And I remember about it. And they were going to go up there, and they were going to end up subdividing the plot of land.
Right.
So I got permission to go up there, and a couple of us went up, and we went up there, and Paul Kenyon, who was there during the deliverance. They call it the exorcism, but it's the deliverance of the property in the house back in the 70s. So we met him up there, and we went in, and the place was the front door. Somebody had kicked in the door, and actually the front door was actually on the porch. Now it's where it's the original was, but back then it was on the porch, and windows were broken, and somebody had gone into the crawl space and fell through the kitchen ceiling. I mean, it was bad. It was in really bad shape. It was brutal. That's the best way. And the grass was probably this was like early December, and I mean, it was just like really just nasty. And it was funny because we always call it a sucker house. When Katrina and Nick Groff were up there, Katrina Weidman, and I always told them, I said, it's a sucker house because it gets in your blood. It's one of those things where it's like, to me, it's like a living entity where it knows what you want to accomplish when you get up there, and it'll give it to you if you're not careful. And that's where I saw, I'm up, those stairs, those steep steps, and it goes up, to the left would have been Laura's room, one of the dandy's daughters during the highlight or the height of the haunting. And you go to the right, it's Laura's room. You go to the left, it's the master bedroom, and then Mary's room, another daughter, would have been right behind it. It was I think I had to go down and get a camera to get a camera battery or something. And I turned, I'm going down the stairs, and there was a trifold door at the bottom of the stairs. And I looked down, and there was a girl hanging on the, kind of hanging on the trifold door. And I like looking at her, and she's as real as any of us. That's what always kind of like made my, skin crawl a little bit. And I just thought right away, it's probably some kid. They saw cars up here, you know, they're at the spook house. They're going to go check it out, whatever. And because people drive up and down that dead end road all the time, constantly. So I'm looking at her, and I saw she's holding on. I could see part of her body, and she's got, I'll always remember, canvas sneakers, flare bottom bell bottoms. She had a polyester white shirt with either pink roses or pink polka dots on it. And she had a real super round face, and she had she had a sweet smile. And I stood there, in about 10, 12 seconds, I remember blinking my eyes, and she was still there. And I can't remember if Paul made a noise in the bedroom, and I went like this, and I looked down, she was gone. I came down those stairs, out and around. The back door, because the kitchen door is right there, that was nailed shut. Went out the front door. All the leaves are down. It's like I think it was like the first week in December. So you got a clear shot going up the hill behind it. You got a clear shot going to the field across the way. And then I had ran up to the road, looked down the road. No, nothing. No way. There's just no way she could have gotten away from me. I mean, I was only seconds behind her. And so I had interviewed for my show, Clara Miller now, a couple times. So I email her. I go, gee, Clara, I know you seem like a girl inside the house. Have you ever, and I described the girl, and she used to write to me like right away. And took about 2 weeks, and she wrote to me then. She goes, Tim, you gave me a start. You described my daughter, Laura. And Laura was one of the daughters that after they left the house and went to the West Coast, she committed suicide a number of years later. So, I mean, I've seen a photo of Laura right around like 15, 16, somewhere around there, which is about the age of the girl that I saw. And it's pretty close. Very, very close. It wasn't a great photo. Don't get me wrong. It was, I think it was a Polaroid. So it's like a little distorted a little bit. But yeah, it was pretty close to it. And Clara was always cute because she goes, next time you see her, tell her Ma says hello. So it was, but it was, yeah, it was pretty interesting. And then we did an experiment with plasma balls, and brand new batteries hooked up to the plasma balls. Put them in Mary's room, which, the wall divides between her and would have been Laura's room. And we said during the night, show us where Laura is. And all the plasma balls pointed to the wall. All the little sparks from the wall to which indicated Laura's room. And then shortly after that, every 9-volt battery died. They all died. And we're talking maybe 10 minutes. And that's a low draw. So, I mean, it should be longer than that. But yeah, so, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that goes on there. But I'm going
to ask, what about the tree? Jordan and I had a situation with that big tree when you're driving down the driveway towards the house.
Where the tire is?
Yes. No. Further, Jordan, where's the tree?
No, it was further down. It was another property on the way.
That's where you turn in, where the hanging tree is.
Is it? Because we were like...
Well, that's what they called it, yeah. The hanging tree.
The energy of that tree, more than the house, actually.
Yeah, there's different places. But you have to always remember, I mean, the Native Americans up there, they date back to, 4,000, 5,000 years ago. You're talking about, you're talking about a lot of stone tool makers back up there. And so there's different spots that will have different energies. Yeah. And as you turn, and that spot there, I don't know how many cars have died there. I'm trying to think, Paul Kenyon talks about when he was leaving the house, and his car got to that tree, died. Like the battery died, like a drain. And Father Alphonse Trabolt, who did the exorcism at the house, he came down behind him, and as he came up behind him, he was able to start the car. So yeah, there's been quite a few. There's been quite a few battery drains right there. All I gotta say is when I go up there, I always make sure that my battery's up is newer, because I don't want.
You have to. It's responsibility.
Well, I actually, I know somebody that lives on Wagner Hill Road, which is not that far away, so I could always walk to her house. But I don't. On a good day, I'd rather just drive home.
Yeah. You've talked so much about all the things that you've done, like in spiritualism and with the paranormal. Any good events coming up, or anything new that you're starting on? Any new projects?
Well, you know what? As we talked off air, I do a lot of preservation work, and I do fundraising. So I'm going to be this coming Monday. I'm going to be at the Pagan Collective picnic they're going to have in Ellicott Park, and they're raising money to get scooters for disabled people at the Rhinestone Woodland Preserve. They want to be able to open that up more. They have one there now, but they want to at least get one or two more. So we're raising money for that. I'm a digger at Concordia Cemetery in Buffalo, which was an abandoned cemetery, and it's 100% volunteer run now and maintained. And I'm one of the guys that goes out there digging up tombstones that have been lost under the ground. So that's one of my favorite things to do in the entire world, is reclaim, give somebody back their name. And we do that. I'm doing in August. Can't remember the name of it, but it's going to be a metaphysical fair in Erie, Pennsylvania, put on by Susie Wu. And September, I will be at the Cleveland Paracon. And then after that, I'll be raising money at the Foresight Tavern in Cambria, New York, a beautiful little fantastically haunted little location, Cambria, New York. I'm going to be doing one night is going to be all about paranormal. We're going to have paranormal investigation, and the other night is going to be seance, where we're going to do one or two different types of seances, and to raise money for them. After that, I'm going to be speaking at University Express. So I'll be working with them. I do a lot of talks for them over the years. So, and the rest of the time, I don't know, I'll do a pop-up here, do a pop-up there, sit down and hang out with cool people like you. That's what the important thing is to hang out with the coolest. I get this invitation to come on. I'm going, hey, these, you know what? They're cool. That's all I got to say. But, I'll do that. That's fine. It's fun.
It's been a lot of fun. I could talk with you all night long, especially with the spiritualist stuff. I'm doing Morris Pratt right now myself. After 20 years, I finally decided to do it again. I did it years ago again. So, yeah, I could learn a lot from you. I'm going to, reach out to you. I'm like, okay, that's it. You're my study buddy.
I still listen. I don't have my answer books anymore, but I do have the main book that the study book that you get from it. So I still use that.
Oh yeah, it's good stuff. Good stuff. How can people reach out to you if they want to connect?
Well, if they want to connect, they can. What they should do is check out my website, timothytshaw.com. Hit the connect, contact, and drop me an email, because why? I'm not of this generation. So if you guys go and call me or leave me a text, I probably won't see it. But I check my email every day, so I try to go and make sure I keep up on that. And I have a show. It's called the Black Cat Lounge. It's on 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and I put it on Facebook for live, and it's on YouTube. And right now it's streaming on Paraflix Entertainment. And for the audio version, which comes out a couple weeks after a fresh show, on the Para-X radio network. So I'm here, there, and everywhere. And then, if you have and I'll come and do a gallery at bar mitzvahs and communions or whatever, So I'm at that point in life where it's like it's all good.
It's all fun. So
exactly. And that's what's so important. You got to keep the fun in this, because too many people, I know people who are very, very science orientated. They do a great job because they look for patterns. not for results, but they look for patterns. And what they found is amazing to me. It falls right into all of our wheelhouses. But then I also know people that take it a little bit too far and too strict, and it no longer becomes fun. And as mediums, you guys know that the best responses and the best contact work is done through joy and happiness. And that's why when I do gallery work, you'll see me throw candy, and I'll make everybody sing when the saints come marching in, and I'll make them, I'll throw, I go to the dollar store and I buy, $20 or $30 full of full of Mardi Gras beads, and I throw them because it's great. It's great because this way it raises the energy. Everybody's happy, and that's what you want. If you want to go flatline, and you want to do it like on a lower, on a more serious thing, you go to church. If you're going to go and you're going to do this stuff, I mean, I've worked at casinos and stuff, so you flower readings, you do anything that you can to raise that vibration. And that's where you get your best contact work. You really, truly do when people come from that joy and that happiness. And that's why I'm always after people my age to go to the gym, to keep moving, and to try to keep being happy and learning, and trying to be that Nietzschean Uberman, just keep working, and for the rest of your life, just keep doing that.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you guys. It's an honor to be here. Thank you guys so much. I'm so thrilled that you asked me to be on.
Of course. Like I said, I loved your energy. I'm like, I got to talk to Tim again.
Energy. That's just, I had chili before lunch. That's for lunch. That's the energy I have now.
No, truly, Tim, you are truly a blessing. Like, I think about just even your philosophies and your take on things and how you approach, some things that could be very dark with just such joy and such love forward. And again, that I even look at like all the things that you were mentioning up and coming, and a lot of those are very service based. And then we kind of talked about that a little bit. Right. And, when I look at you, I'm really seeing somebody who not just talks the talk, but walks the walk and really embodies what this field is about.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you for being of service to everybody.
It's just that people don't realize that the original reasons for what we do it for. And too many people look at it as a business or whatever, And I don't look at it like that. I try to go and my basic rule of thumb is to give back at least half of what you take in. That's what's so important to me. And, if you get a chance to make somebody smile, you make somebody else's day better. I mean, it's even like on Facebook. Facebook is the epitome of, oh, woe is me, and people always hate each other and they're always in drama. Dustin Perry, again, he's probably one of my best friends in the paranormal. We've known each other for years. We had the same agent going back, I don't know how many years. And he's one of these guys that I always call him the Pied Piper of positivity.
He really
is. I think he does a great job. I turn around and I try to do the same thing. Try to always leave something. Try to put something, whether I'm channeling something or if I find a meme or something, try to put that out there. Because you know what? Everybody is going through something. Let's go and try to put more positivity out there and try to change things and change the way we think. We got to rewire our brains, and that's what's important.
Amen to that, for sure. So I hope everybody's listening out there. Great advice from Tim. Please reach out to him because he is a wealth of knowledge. Like, he's been doing this longer than, the two of us have been alive. So this is something.
Thanks. Thanks. I'll get my walker now. Thank you.
But you're the one that we're learning through. So thank you so much for guiding us forward on our journey and helping those that are yet to come and will be doing this in the future. So it means a lot. So thank you again.
Just think, someday when you're my age, you'll be doing that, and some whippersnapper will be going, well, okay, no problem.
Oh, Spirit already told me I'm going to be doing this till the day I die, literally the day I die. So I'm right there with you for sure. And so any of you, please send your comments below. Tell us, how you got into the paranormal, or if you're interested in spiritualism at all, because it's a really great, great religion to get into. Again, there's also metaphysics, which I'm a metaphysical minister as well. So tell us your thoughts. Tell us what you're really interested in, and we'll be sure to try to get this information on the show for you so everyone can learn. We're a community. We're here to support each other. No one's alone doing this. So please reach out if you have any questions. And Jordan, how can they reach out if they do have questions for us?
Well, y'all can reach us out at the spiritrescuetalk@gmail.com. We love emails.
We do very much. And thank you all of you for joining us today. And we look forward to seeing you next time.